The state of Arizona just announcing it will not create a state insurance exchange under the new health care law. That's an exchange, a marketplace where people go to pick and choose what coverage they want. 17 states are now refusing to set up those exchanges, and that means it'll be up to the federal government to do it for them. Now, Georgia Governor Nathan Deal is one of the governors who has rejected the exchange. He is our guest live now out of Atlanta. And, sir, good morning to you, Governor. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
You were on the record about a week ago. I'll just use your words here. We have no interest in spending our tax dollars on an exchange that is state-based in name only. What do you mean by that?
Well, it appears that everything will be dictated by the federal government. The flexibility that states had asked for appears not to be existent in their proposals. We've asked questions. A number of us governors have sent official questions to the Secretary Sebelius asking the kind of information that we need answers to, and we've received virtually none of those.
Nothing.
There are several reasons why I think you find states rejecting it. First of all is the cost. It is an unknown figure, and all of us are struggling to meet our current obligations under Medicaid, and to add a factor that is an unknown quantity is simply something that is not acceptable.
All right, Governor, I want to go through a series of questions here in the 3 minutes that we have, okay? You know what your detractors say.
Sure.
They say you're just playing politics. What do you say to them?
I say absolutely not. You know, historically, the regulation of insurance has been a state function. That's why we have state insurance commissioners. We don't have a federal insurance commissioner. We will have one, of course, maybe not in name, but in practicality. It is not politics. It is the cost and the question of state control over an issue that's so important to the citizens of our states.
And so it's 17. Some suggest the states could climb well above 20. Some people are even suggesting 25 might be the number in the end. But you're doing it because you think you're saving taxpayer dollars in your state. How much money do you think you're saving taxpayers because of this decision?
Well, it is an unknown amount. First of all, we do not know what the requirements are going to be for administrative cost. It is obviously in the millions of dollars every year, and certainly something that our state budget cannot absorb.
Okay, now, are the services for the people who live in your state, they now be worse off than perhaps somebody who's living somewhere else that actually has one of these exchanges?
I don't see how that is the issue. If they have an insurance policy, and if all insurance policies are going to have to meet the criteria of the federal government, then if they have a policy that is issued by a state exchange or a federal exchange, presumably their benefits would be the same.
Well, if the federal government is slow to set up one of these exchanges, you know, there's a group of people who will be without insurance. Just back to the question, are they worse off or not because they live in Georgia?
I don't think they will be any worse off. The federal government has always said if the states do not establish the exchanges that they would do so. I think the reality is that they are not prepared to do that because they too do not know what it's going to cost.
I think you're right about that, and based on the reporting we're getting, 14 months away, the federal government's a long way from making this happen. What do you believe happens to the overall law if states like Georgia and 16 plus others refuse to go along with this aspect of it?
Well, I don't know. Of course, that's going to be up to Congress as to whether or not they come back in and try to tweak it to give states the kind of flexibility that we've all asked for. I do not see that in the short term. I think it's going to be a situation where if the federal government cannot make it work, then the practicality is going to dictate that there have to be changes.
Well, even some Democrats this week were suggesting that some of this should be in negotiations over the fiscal cliff to try and improve it before we get too far down the road. Do you think that's likely?
Well, I don't know. I think the fiscal cliff issues are certainly at this point bigger than perhaps this one is in the short term. But in the long term, because the implementation date is 2014, it will certainly be a factor to be considered. I do not see how you absorb these costs along with the expanded Medicaid rolls that the Act contemplates.
Okay, Governor, thank you for your time. Nathan Deal, Republican out of Georgia. Appreciate you sharing your opinions with us. Thank you, sir.